Jalen Jacoby is presented by Guinness.
He is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We give the people what they want.
John Wall was traded for Russell Westbrook. Paul George has some very interesting things to say about the Clippers' failure last season in the bubble. But we start with big news for the Los Angeles Lakers. Not only did LeBron James sign a 2-year extension, Anthony Davis signed a 5-year, one with the player option, $190 million deal. Jalen, this is a little bit longer than we thought he would sign for. What does these deals mean for the Lakers and for these two individuals?
It means to me, I'm going to make sure everyone in the media puts respect on two individuals' name that I had to come on television during this period of time over the last few years and defend their honor.
Hey.
One, Rob Pelinka, who only won the championship with the Lakers this year after everybody assassinated his character. The other one is Rich Paul. When you get a chance, look deeper into the Los Angeles Lakers roster. You know what you're gonna find? A lot of Rich Paul clients. And you know what else you're gonna find? A lot of Rich Paul clients getting paid top dollar. And soon as you saw, Jacoby, soon as you saw the news, LeBron James, 2 years, almost $100 million, it was like muscle memory. It's like hitting your knee. You already knew Anthony Davis was gonna come right after. 5 years overall, he can opt out after the 4th year. The Lakers are playing chess when the rest of the NBA is just playing checkers.
Absolutely. And we looked at the Western Conference at the beginning of last season. We saw the Lakers and the Clippers kind of as 1A and 1B, and now there's a clear leader in the Western Conference. That is the Los Angeles Lakers. You look at what they did this offseason. Let's take a look at those people again. Not just did they re-sign LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you added Harrell, you added Schroeder, you added Matthews and Gasol. They are a much better team this year than they were last year. And what they do last year, Jalen?
Win the championship.
Absolutely. Now, we thought that maybe Anthony Davis would sign a 1 or 2 or a 2+1 type of deal to get himself to that 10 years of service so he can get 35% of the max, but he signed for 5 years. Why do you think he's signed long-term now?
We Rich Paul clients, we're not playing those games. As a matter of fact, you notice when the NBA went to its lockout when the pandemic first hit, there were a handful of players that got their full salary. You know who represent them? Rich Paul. So he's going to make sure he goes to Anthony Davis and tells him, let me tell you a secret. I'm going to get LeBron James to sign for 2 more years. That means they have LeBron for 3. They have you for 4, and then you can do whatever you want your 5th year. It's your call. But we're going to make sure KCP, LeBron, AD, Morris, we're going to make sure all of our guys get top dollar. And as you mentioned, we're bringing Schroeder. He was only one of the top 6 men in the league, averaging almost around 20 points. Montrezl Harrell.
Oh, that's right.
And here's an adjustment for Montrezl Harrell. And this happens when you become a veteran player. It's been acknowledged that he can't be your best big guy and be a competitive championship contending team. Now, in the bubble, he dealt with some family loss. And their team clearly didn't warm up to the opportunity to make the sacrifices needed as the Clippers to perform in the bubble. But now playing alongside AD, playing alongside LeBron, all he got to do is what you just saw. Catch, dunk. That's all he got to do. Celebrate, flex to the crowd. That's all he got to do for the next couple of years, and then he'll try to get another big deal.
When you play alongside Anthony Davis, your role becomes much different for Harrell than it was last year because Anthony Davis does so much on both ends of the floor. Underrated defender. And Harrell, like you said, they're not asking him to guard the best opposing big now because they've got Davis to do that. They're not asking him to create offense. They have so many playmakers around him. What's he going to do, Jalen? What 2 things does he need to do?
Catch, finish. That's it. That's
and
it.
Then celebrate. And then
celebrate.
Well,
he gonna be flexing this year. Oh my goodness, he gonna be out there like a boxer.
Well, Lakers fans, Lakers front office, and Rich Paul and Clutch and LeBron and Anthony Davis, they should all celebrate because this is huge for the purple and gold, and they now are head and shoulders above every other team in the whole entire league as the favorites heading into the season. Jalen, rarely does a blockbuster trade not lead the show, but the Lakers news was just that big. Jalen, the Houston Rockets don't just get John Wall. They get John Wall and a first-round pick, and Russell Westbrook goes to the Wizards. Jalen, when you look at it through the prism of James Harden, who I'm sure was consulted on this, why do you think they went for Wall?
I think they went for Wall because him and Russ are similar in a lot of ways, but they're going to be vastly different in certain ways. In particular, on the floor, John Wall is going to be a guy that can be effective without the ball. I know that he's a 20-10 and 2-steal guy, but he's going to be able to still make plays as a secondary playmaker versus Russ and James both need an isolation scenario in order to perform at their maximum. But here's what I want to also acknowledge. I know there's a lot of podcasts in the game. I get it. We've been doing this 10 years. As a matter of fact, Jacoby, when we were doing it, there was no Spotify. There was no Apple. Okay, we were doing this thing on YouTube and on Periscope. And if you follow Jalen and Jacoby over the last 10 years, this trade don't surprise you. It's broken news to you. This is broken news to you. We talked about that time and time again. When John Wall was returning from injury, and then he was pictured in Brooklyn doing some unsavory things as it related to the organization, the ownership and management made up their mind that he had played his last basketball game there. Him and Bradley Beal, while both talented all-star level performers, still never meshed as a duo. So for James, I understand. You bring in Wall, you bring in Boogie, you're trying to do what you can to still be a playoff team because you know Harden's still gonna perform at an MVP level. But for Russ, like I told you, when he got traded, it not only was gonna be to the East, but it was gonna be a team that did not make the playoffs. Yep. And why is that important? Because now their fan base is energized. You know that Russ gonna show up and bring it on a nightly basis, teaming with Bradley Beal. And are they the best backcourt in the NBA? Are they the best backcourt in the NBA?
Interesting.
Okay. All right, so that's what they're gonna have going on in Washington. And so they're now gonna be a team that we talk about. They're also gonna be a team that will make the playoffs this year. And so this is a win-win for both sides.
Well, I also want to say this about Houston. When D'Antoni left and when Daryl Morey left, they left behind sort of a broken roster, but I really like what they have done in the wake of those two leaving because it's not only did they bring in Boogie, not only did they bring in John Wall, a gentleman that you're familiar with that's not a household name, Christian Wood. Christian Wood is a legit contributor, and he's a big. So we don't have P.J. Tucker guarding centers anymore. Christian Wood is only familiar to those that live in Michigan because no one's watching the Pistons on League Pass. But he is a true contributor, and they've got Boogie, they've got Christian Wood, they've got Wall, they've got Harden, they've still got Eric Gordon, they've still got Tucker. Like, the Rockets are kind of revamped, and I like what they have done. But of course, you can't talk about John Wall without saying if he stays healthy, because we have not seen John Wall play basketball in 2 years. So if he's the old John Wall, it's going to go well.
I suffered through the years and shed so many tears. Oh, man, I hate to see Christian Wood go. And I'm glad you brought him up. That's smart basketball analysis. You paying attention to League Pass, dog, because Christian Woods can ball. He can play on the perimeter. He can drive it and make a play for himself. He can block shots. He can rebound. And I just want to go on wax and say this.
What's
and
up?
I love Daryl Morey just like all of the other media fanboys. The Houston GM has done a better job than Daryl Morey already. What do you think about that?
Interesting.
The current GM has done better than Daryl Morey already. And here's what I mean. His outstanding move clearly was bringing in James Harden. Like, that's outstanding. The other thing to help unlock James Harden was to bring in Mike D'Antoni and put the ball in his hands. Those were outstanding moves. The other moves, not so outstanding. You remember when Dwight Howard ran with them? Or Chris Paul? Or now Russell Westbrook? You remember them starting a micro ball, like you just mentioned, where P.J. Tucker was 6'5", starting at center? The same team that lived by the three in the biggest games, you know what they did? Died by the three. Died by the three. Everybody knew where they were going to be, right? You had a chance against San Antonio, came up short. Chance against the Warriors, missed 27 straight. So now them becoming a team that's actually traditional. And by the way, my guy, JRLA supporter, let's put some respect on Boogie's name. The last couple of years with Golden State and with the Lakers, it didn't work out so well for my guy. But trust me, the league better be on notice. Here come 20 plus and 10 plus coming back into the league balling with the Rockets because he's paying attention to all these deals everybody getting. He's like, wait a minute, such and such got what? Such and such got what? Boogie about to get healthy and he about to do work in the West.
Yep, and one thing that we have to point out here on Jalen Jacoby, the champagne and campaign implications of this trade. I mean, we got James Harden and John Wall in the same city in Houston right now. Buckle up, Houston. It's about to go down. One of the teams that they'll be contending with right now in the Western. Don't do it, Jay. Don't do it, Jay. Don't get us canceled. I got kids to feed. One of the teams they'll be competing with to unseat the Lakers in the Western Conference is the Clippers, who famously flamed out in the bubble. Paul George was on the All the Smoke podcast. Shout out to those guys. And he said, Doc wasn't using me right. He said we weren't making adjustments during the Nuggets series. What do you think about these shots at Doc?
I think I know too much about these individuals' lives. Some of the things that I won't say, but I do feel like when Paul George got traded to the Clippers, overall, I just felt his marriage with Doc Rivers was going to be a tough one. And I was one of the people that predicted that they would win a championship, and they came up clearly short. But here's what I want to point out. Those two guys don't talk a lot. Those two guys ain't me type of individuals. Kawhi Leonard is basically a mute in most circumstances. And Paul George really is one of those guys I consider speak when spoken to. What has happened to both of those guys, because of the Clippers' expectations, now for the average fan, they've become unlikable characters to the fans in a lot of ways and to the media. If you notice, it's reminding me a lot of what I played with Toronto, and they traded Vince Carter stupidly. Some of the things I'm hearing about Kawhi Leonard, it's like his habits, where he likes to stretch pregame, where he lives, how that affects practice, and then these comments by Paul George. So if you're both of those guys, you have to know this. Right now, you can't say anything. You got to take it. You got to take it. Dame shot you down a couple of years, Paul George, and he broke up you and Russ. Jamal Murray and the Joker put y'all out of the bubble. It happened. Okay, so you know what the fans and the media now want to see? Productivity. You know what they don't want to hear? You making excuses about the coach that just got let go to Philly. And so I appreciate his honesty. And you know how much I love Paul George, another Larry Bird disciple, just like I love Kawhi Leonard, a Steve Fisher disciple. But for these guys, the most important thing they can do is actually live up to expectations. But here's the problem. I picked up the phone yesterday, Jacoby, and they signed Reggie Jackson, and they signed Nicholas Batum. The Lakers signed Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So things have changed in the last 12 months in LA.
They sure have. And Jalen, the last Thursday's game that turned into Sunday's game, that turned into Monday's game, that turned into Tuesday's game was actually played last night. And I think the Steelers are the least impressive 11-0 team I've ever seen. We'll talk about that right after this. You are watching Jalen and Jacoby.
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby, presented by Guinness.
Coming to you live from Pier 17 in the South Street Seaport and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, why are you stopping me from doing my job already, sir?
I'm excited, Jacoby. Did I just see Guinness up on the screen? You know how much I love to drink some black and tans.
I know you love some Guinness. It's a delicious, refreshing beverage.
Yes.
Can I go back to doing my job, please, sir?
Okay, sir.
Great. They played the Ravens and Steelers game finally yesterday afternoon at a weird time on a Wednesday. It was a weird game. The Ravens were completely depleted, but the Steelers did not look good. Jalen, in my entire life, I have never been less impressed by an 11-0 NFL football team. You can't sit here and say that you would pick this team to beat the Chiefs in a game, to beat the Titans in a game. I'm putting them in that Colts, Bills, Raiders group. What do you think about this undefeated Steelers team and their performance yesterday?
I'm putting them right under the Chiefs, and let me tell you why. During this pandemic, people should start to acknowledge the difference that it makes when you have fans versus not. Without fans, to me, Jacoby, that takes away any extracurricular distractions from the players. And so for me, for my money, I don't believe, for example, if the stands were full in baseball, that the Dodgers would have won it this year. I really don't. Because Clayton Kershaw and his mentals haven't necessarily been there when they needed him the most. And I bring all of that up to say the teams that have the most talent, Lakers, or the teams that are really well coached, like the Miami Heat or like the Pittsburgh Steelers, those are the kind of teams that are rising to the top, Jacoby. Stability, disciplined. They have what's considered a style of play and an identity. I believe something just came to my mind.
What's that?
Mike Tomlin can coach the Miami Heat, and Eric Spoelstra can coach the Pittsburgh Steelers, because both of those franchises are model of stability. The Steelers have had 3 coaches in 30, 40 years. The Miami Heat had a big 3, and there were times LeBron walked to the huddle, he bumped into Eric Spoelstra. D-Wade bumped into Spoelstra. And you know what Pat Riley said? Y'all better figure it out, because he's going to be here longer than both of y'all. And guess what? That's true. He is still there. And so based on that, don't look at the Steelers to win by 21 or 28.
They don't.
That's not their style, Jacoby. They're going to play smash mouth football and win a game by 3, but beat you up like they won by 14.
They barely beat the Ravens, who didn't even have their players. Jalen, regrettably, we're going to allow you to decide what we discuss. It is Keep It Moving. If you want to talk about the topic, say hit the brakes. If not, we will keep it moving. We have a very interesting quote from Tyreek Hill about his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
He said that when he first saw Patrick Mahomes in training camp, he thought he was trash. Jalen, do you think he's changed his opinion?
He definitely changed his opinion. He's been regular season MVP. He's been Super Bowl MVP. He throws the football from different arm angles like a baseball player. I'm pretty sure he appreciates having the special quarterback under center, throwing it to him and Travis Kelce. Because each week when I look up at the league leaders in yards, they're both there. But I gotta say one more thing about Tyreek Hill. And this is way before he had 200 yards in the first quarter. I've already put this on wax. The wide receiver position has changed. And of course you want the size of Julio and the hands of DeAndre Hopkins. But this guy has broken the mold for a receiver that doesn't necessarily fit the prototype of what people used to consider a number 1 receiver. Kind of like we see in that quarterback with shorter guys like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray.
Jalen, Roger Goodell says that they will not reschedule games for competitive considerations. Keep moving or hit the brakes.
No surprise. I got some math for you. 32 teams times 16 weeks. We play all of those games, everybody get checks. Keep it moving.
We keep it moving. We keep it moving.
The Pistons signed a ball.
Hit the brakes. Hit the
They
brakes.
got LiAngelo Ball in a non-guaranteed 1-year deal with your trash Pistons. What do you think he can bring to the franchise?
Here's what I know. There's a gentleman and a couple, the Ball family. LeVar in particular will be vocal about this. Do we have 1, 2, 3 players in the league?
Yes, he does.
At the same time?
Yes, he does.
At the same time?
Yes, he does.
Congratulations. That's amazing for that family.
Congratulations, Funk Master Flex, but a very interesting video
Hit the brakes.
on Instagram.
Hit the brakes.
We will not show you the video, but
Why?
legendary DJ Funk Master Flex put his liposuction surgery on Instagram. Soft move or boss move?
Flex, the same guy And you know I'm a whack DJ and Flex is a legend to me. So I'll go on
Flex.
his show and say this to him.
Hard to get a ticket.
I can't say bars without paying homage to him. That's my homage to the OG. But dog, the same guy that has people come to the studio and freestyle to show that they can spit and not just make records, can't be the same guy getting liposuction, dog. That can't be the same person. That can't be the same person.
I will accept zero Funkmaster Flex slander on this program. We're going to
Agreed.
keep moving to the Christmas Day NBA schedule has been released. Keep moving or hit the brakes.
We gonna keep it moving, but I'm gonna be cleaner than the board of health on Christmas, boy.
Make sure you stay tuned. Jalen Jacoby will be right back. Jalen, Snoop Dogg is starting something called the Fight Club, where we promote boxing matches like this one you saw between Jake Paul and Nate Robinson. What did you learn from Nate Robinson getting knocked out?
I'm happy for Snoop, and he did a great job analyzing that night on that fight card. But here's what I'll say. For anybody that saw Nate Robinson get knocked out, the people that he was fighting for, athletes and entertainers, were the first people to tease him. And it taught me that people use the word love incorrectly, because I don't laugh when people I love get knocked down and get injured. That's not funny to me.
Jalen, you're a very mature, responsible person, and you're a better person than I, because I laughed at all the memes. I was laughing at all the memes after Nate Robinson knocked out, but I salute his courage. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock.